nyuma kielimu na afya. Juu yako we ufisadi, ni adui mkubwa. Tunasema kanyaga, 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 kanyaga.
Good evening, viewers and listeners across the country. Once again, the National Anti-Corruption Campaign Steering Committee brings you Moving the Masses. We have stated it again and again that the aim of this program is to change your hearts and minds in the fight against corruption. This evening we have a gentleman who has served this country in many capacities. 15 years, a member of parliament, chairman of the CDF, and now is the Speaker of the Senate of the Republic of Kenya, the Honorable Ekwe Ethuro. Welcome.
Thank you.
You know, we were with you at the Bombers. We have been with you here, and you have talked about and against corruption. But this monster, this dragon, appears to grow bigger on a daily basis. Now you're in a privileged position, the Speaker of the Senate. In the last few months, you have presided over impeachment proceedings, and the subject has been corruption. What can you do to kill this monster in your position?
Good evening, viewers and listeners, and also the audience in the room. Good evening, Professor. First, I want to thank you for inviting me, and also for the Anti-Corruption Campaign Steering Committee for relaunching this program. I think it is important that we as a nation enter into dialogue on this kind of monster you are referring to. Of course, now I sit as a Senate Speaker, and in terms of what we can do as a Senate, I think it's becoming very clear to Kenyans, the impeachment. But again, I want to say impeachment should be something of the last resort. It's a quasi-political judicial process which begins at the county levels in the first instance. And if you look at what is spelled out in Article 181 of the Constitution, where you expect the governors to be impeached, there are all issues definitely of corruption, abuse of office, procurement, and so we have an opportunity as a House to deal with that matter at that particular level. And we have pronounced ourselves that it is never too early to deal with corruption, as some of the observers reckon. We believe that corruption is not a devolved function.
Mheshimiwa, hebu tuzungumze kwa Kiswahili kidogo. Kumbuka ya kwamba Wakenya na Kiswahili ni lugha rasmi na lugha ya taifa pia. Wakenya wanajiuliza, wewe umekuwa mbunge, umekuwa mwenyekiti wa CDF na sasa ni spika wa bunge ya Seneti. Na umetuambia kwamba mnapigana dhidi ya ufisadi. Je, kwa mtazamo wako, hatua ambazo mmezipiga kwa hivi sasa zinachangia vipi kuhakikisha kwamba janga hili tumeliua kabisa?
Jambo la kwanza ni kujulisha Wakenya, na najua mnasikiliza radio, wanaangalia pia vile tunafanya kazi katika Senate, ni kwamba tumeonesha ya kwamba hakuna wakati tutasema tutakawia ama tungoje muda fulani ili tuweze kuangalia nani amefanya makosa ya ufisadi. Na ndiposa umeona tumekuwa na hoja mingi ya impeachment katika Senate, na pali tunakagua kuna makosa tumechukua hatua, kama vile tulichukua hatua kwa upande wa gavana ya Embu, kwa gavana ya Kericho. Tuliona ya kwamba yale mashtaka alikuwa nayo hajafikia ile kiwango ambacho kinatakikana. Kwa hivyo tuko kuangalia, sio tu kuona kama Senate kazi yake tu ni kunyonga watu. Sisi ni kuangalia maneno vile yataletwa, tunakagua kulingana na sheria.
Baada ya kipindi cha wiki jana, Koigi wa Mwere kanitumia ujumbe, amesema tatizo la Kenya ni ya kwamba tunazungumza tu. Tuko katika vikao hivi, tunazungumza, tunakemea ufisadi mchana, lakini usiku tunashiriki. Na anasema ya kwamba wakati umefika, lazima tuchukue hatua zaidi kuhakikisha kwamba tumepigana na janga hili. Na anasema ya kwamba ukiangalia katika bunge, iwe ni bunge la wawakilishi au bunge ya seneti, kila kukicha tunaizungumzia ufisadi, lakini watu hawaadhibiwi.
Kwanza ningependa kukubaliana yeye ya kwamba kama Wakenya wangetenda kulingana na vile tunanena na vile tunazungumza, ufisadi haingefikia kiwango ambacho kimefikia. Lakini hili jangwa sio, kwa maoni yangu, sio ya seneti ama ya nyumba ya wakilishi. Hili ni jangwa ambalo Wakenya wote lazima waje pamoja ili tutatue. Lakini pia ningependa kumkosoa ya kwamba na yeye anajua alikuwa mwanakamati ya ile kamati muhimu katika bunge ya mambo ya kuangalia ufisadi, Public Accounts Committee. Na hata wakati tulikuwa katika bunge la wakilishi, bunge lilikuwa kila mara kinaweka recommendation ya kwamba mtu fulani achunguzwe zaidi na Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission. Na najua hiyo itaendelea. Sisi katika Seneti tumeunda hata kamati kingine, County Public Accounts and Investments Committee, ili kuangalia ile report zote zinatoka control of budget na pia controller auditor general, kwa sababu hiyo ndio ofisi ambayo inaenda kukagua vitabu. Sisi tu ni kuangalia vile kazi imefanyika na tunatoa uamuzi.
But Mr. Speaker, some people also say that your own Senate, the National Assembly, is also a den of corruption, and that you speak about and against it, but your own members, that in fact some are saying that these parliamentary committees are sometimes extortion rings. Are such accusations fair or unfair?
I think those accusations are unfair. And they are always dogging all parliaments. You know, a parliament is an assembly of members. It's not a household or a family that acquires a particular character. So depending on your persuasion, there could be instances where maybe things are not done properly. But I think to condemn the entire institution is not correct. Let me just take the most recent one, even from the National Assembly, on the issue of Safaricom. I think they have been very clear. You remember when the issue of Anglo leasing, I think Parliament pronounced itself. And so I think that those instances, you can say, at least Parliament is fighting corruption. In the case of Senate, I can speak with more authority and conviction. I think so far there has not been such accusations leveled against the Senate or any senator.
Now, remember what we are talking about is the role of the Senate in the fight against corruption. And the reason for your existence, in fact, the main reason is that you are the protectors and guarantors of the devolved system. And some commentators are already saying that we have devolved corruption. In fact, in the Kericho impeachment process, the governor said that his MCAs demanded from him 52 million, if I'm not wrong. The question is, what can the Senate do in instances where somebody appears before you and says they demanded from me 52 million, so that we set an example?
One is Senate is not it's not a police station, nor judiciary to convict anybody. We would encourage the governor of Kericho to report such to the police. Those are the entities that will take action. In terms of our mandate under Article 96 of protecting and promoting the interests of counties, our clarion call is that corruption is not a devolved function. That is what we have said. And we have also said we are the guardian angel of devolution. And we are going to protect devolution from within and from without. And that's where the impeachment comes from. That's why we defend the counties when the resource allocation is limited, where our participation in terms of the division of revenue bill, you remember we went to the Supreme Court. That is the extent we have been able, ready, and willing to defend devolution.
When we hear you, and we can't agree with you more, that from a textbook position, there is very little you can do. But you have said that the Senate has a clear role. And Kenyans would want to assume that you, for example, Mr. Speaker, has conversations with His Excellency the President, occasionally. We don't want to know when. But when you do, when you do have such conversations, it is now acknowledged that fight from the top makes the journey a lot easier. What, if you can, do you tell the President on the few occasions that you meet on this fight against corruption? And how does the President respond, to the extent that you can reveal to us?
I'm glad you have clarified that. I cannot reveal a privileged conversation. You know, when it happened last time, it caused a lot of problems. Yes, we have conversations with His Excellency the President in the course of our responsibilities, and we discuss corruption. He is very clear that he does not want to entertain corruption. In fact, during the National Prayer Breakfast, one of the quotes that we used as a parliament was actually the statement made by the President himself when he was launching the strategic plan for the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, that corruption is like cancer to the body. It debases a nation. Corruption must go. So he's very clear on those things. But you see, this is one office. We have the other offices. We have the people who are inside there. So we must make sure that it's not only the presidency, but also the Ethics and Anti-Corruption Commission, the Office of the Controller and Controller Budget, and the Auditor General, the Attorney General, efficiency monitoring within government departments. All those things must be looked into.
Mr. Speaker, there is something called the National Integrity Forum, and that forum brings every player in government and they discuss corruption. One would want to know what it is that your own Senate has now identified as their niche contribution in the fight against corruption. Your own thing. We know it is a multi-sector campaign, but your own niche, the unique thing that you bring to the table.
For us, our uniqueness is provided for under Article 96(3), where we help in sharing the national revenue allocated to counties, and also provide oversight on the same. And so with the committee we have formed now, which we did not have before, remember also that, you know, Senate just came with the results of the last general election. So we are basically in existence for 1 year as a house. But we are very clear on the mandate to make sure that some of the challenges that have been experienced at the national level should not be translated to the county level. That is the niche in terms of fighting corruption, and that's why impeachment process becomes extremely important.
One would have thought, I know this is not exactly in your docket, but one would have thought that the 47 senators would have occasions when they appear before the assemblies in their counties. One, to report to them, and two, to raise issues of ethics under Article 10, for example, national values, that even if it is not provided, an occasion should be availed. Have you ever thought that that would be valuable?
We have not only thought, we have actually provided for it. I'm happy to report that there was a time actually we suspended the sittings of Senate in Nairobi in order to allow our senators, each one of them, to go back to the counties and speak to the assemblies on all the issues we have tackled. We have gone further to create a vehicle within our standing orders where the Speaker of the County Assembly, where the governor can actually communicate to the Senate on the issues of concern to them, and then we can be able to help. And a few are doing so.
Yes. Another thing, I hear you on that thing, is the campaign process. You've been a member of parliament, the manner of election. And one sometimes gets the feeling that if you don't control campaign funding, you have billions spent in this country. The member of parliament, the senator, the governor, the president spend billions of shillings. Do you think that campaign expenditure is something that the Senate should tackle, jointly, of course, with the National Assembly, before the next election?
I think definitely. If we are going to make the transaction cost of a particular transaction that high, then it means that you can only engage when the returns are even higher. That's just the logic in everything. And I think as long as we are making our elections expensive, then you are actually creating ground for corruption to breed. That needs to be checked. That needs to be looked into. Although my thinking is a bit of a tall order, you need another set of institutions to deal with this kind of issues. You remember there were days when we had a limit. Was it 40,000?
40,000.
And of course, when we came to the multi-party era, we decided we'll dispense with it, because politicians appreciated that in order to compete against others, you must now start pouring money. So in the process, this has already polluted our political environment. I also would like to plead with the electorate that unless they really say, you know, we want clean leaders, we don't want anything from you, we want you to go to that house and serve us, then that way the leadership will respond to that kind of stimuli.
You know, to respond to Kiswahili speakers, a friend of mine told me during the campaign, walimwambia sisi tunataka karo, hatutaki sera, tulipe sasa. Are you therefore telling the listeners that part of the problem we have is the attitude of the Kenyan people, and that change must also come from there?
Absolutely. We are saying it takes two to tango. If you want clean leadership, then deal with that leadership in a clean manner. But if somebody feels like he or she went and bought the votes, then they will spend all their time looking for more money to buy the next vote. And I think that is just the reality of the Kenyan situation. That is something we must confront.
You talk of reality. Do you sometimes, as a speaker, want to give up? And can you afford that luxury?
Good question. Except I cannot give up. This is my country. God has given me an opportunity to serve, and I've made a promise to myself and to my God, I'll do the best under the circumstances.
Tutarudi tena. Mgeni wetu hii leo ni Spika wa Bunge la Seneti, Bwana Ekwe Ethuro. Kumbuka anachokiangazia ni ya kwamba sote lazima tushiriki katika mchakato wa kupigana dhidi ya janga la ufisadi. Tutarejea baada ya dakika chache. Asanteni.
Je, umewahi jiuliza ikiwa hakungekuwa na ufisadi nchini, tungekuwa na manufaa gani? Hebu nikupe taswira kamili. Kila mwaka nchi yetu hupoteza karibu bilioni 400 kutokana na ufisadi. Je, waelewa bilioni 400 ni pesa ngapi? Inamaanisha 4, 0, 0 na nyingine na nyingine tena nyingine hadi jumla ya 011. Ikiwa pesa hizo zingetumika kujenga barabara, tungekuwa na uwezo wa kujenga barabara 14 za kiwango cha Thika Road kote nchini. Na kama zingetumika kujenga hospitali sawa na Mama Lucy Hospital, tungejenga hospitali 700, kumaanisha kila kaunti ingekuwa na hospitali 14. Na kama hizi pesa zingetumika kuwajengea nyumba wasiokuwa na makao, tungejenga nyumba za vyumba vya kulala 3 kuwapa makao familia 1200. Usalama ungeimarishwa kwa kuwaajiri askari kutokana na hizi pesa. Pesa hizi zaweza kununua unga wa sima pakiti bilioni 3.5 ambazo zina uwezo wa kuwalisha watu wote nchini kwa miezi 6. Tungeweza kununua ng'ombe milioni 3 wa maziwa na milioni 8 wa kuchinjwa kwa nyama, na kuku milioni 800 kumpa kila mtu kuku 20 nchini. Hebu fikiria, si ni ushenzi kuwa na ufahamu huu kisha kuendelea na ufisadi?
Kupigana na ufisadi, jukumu langu. Kupigana na ufisadi ni uungwana. Ujumbe huu umeletwa kwako kwa hisani ya The National Anti-Corruption Steering Committee ikishirikiana na Uungwana Institute.
Kenya's watching.
Maliza this pressing issue bwana. My boss says kitu yako iko as agreed. How come I never get one of these?
Nyinyi vijana wa siku hizi, cutting corners will run you into trouble.
This is our day, boss. Leo tumeangukia.
Do not give a thought to this, Mshenzi. This is against the rule of law. You cannot triple the cost.
Kitu gani? Boss, did you ask for the money? Did you? Look at it this way. You have to pay school fees, mortgage, chama, the holiday you've been promising your family.
Think about it. How different will you be from that immigration officer who allows illegal immigrants in our country? Some Al-Shabaabs, they end up killing innocent of civilians in terror attacks. Or that cop who looks the other way on our roads leading to accidents. But this is different. It's not like that. This is different. Oh, sorry.
Now you are talking. Wachana wewe unajifanya mgwana. You are not like those corrupt border people or the traffic police officers. This is you and 10 million.
Corruption won't pay in the long run. Thinking about those people you'll save is having human dignity. Thinking about our country is being patriotic.
Boss, think about it. Do you really want to let this golden opportunity pass?
This is about your values. Do the Ungwana thing.
And lose 10 million. Boss, that will be stupid.
Rise up to your true human spirit. Do the right thing.
Just think about it. Isn't engaging in acts of corruption ushenzi? Fighting corruption, my responsibility. Fighting corruption is uungwana. This message has been brought to you courtesy of the National Anti-Corruption Campaign Steering Committee in partnership with the Uungwana Institute.
We are back with Moving the Masses. Our guest, the Honorable Ekwe Ethuro, the Speaker of the Senate, and he has told us that the Senate is playing its part. Whenever there is a whiff of allegations of corruption in the counties, they have acted as they are enjoined by the Constitution to do. He said they are playing their role. The question is, are you playing your role? Huu ni mtego wa panya, huingia waliomo na wasiokuwemo. Honorable Speaker, before we go to our audience, you have rightly said that this is a multi-sectoral fight. If you are to talk first to the President of the Republic of Kenya, what is the single thing that you would tell him he should do in order to take the fight against corruption to the next level? And if then you are asked to talk to the people of Kenya, what is the single thing that you would tell the people of the Republic of Kenya for them to do to take it to the next level?
My message to the President would be that if there is any whiff of corruption anywhere, institute investigations immediately, put in abeyance whatever was needed to be done, and especially in the areas of procurement, until that is exhausted. And I think the president, I mean, I cannot speak for him, but to a large extent has been able to do it. If you remember the saga on the laptop project, this is something that, you know, government committed itself, and any person in that position would really wish to see it through, because it was a campaign pledge. But since Parliament raised issues around it, the president allowed that process to continue. So I think that is something worth commending. And then if I have to speak to the people, it's exactly the message you have just given. Each person has a responsibility. What is your role in contributing to corruption? Either you are partaking, you are facilitating, or you are doing something to make it. You know, there are people who like shortcuts. It does not matter to them how they reach there. So if they think greasing some hands would help them get there, then you are equally responsible for this monster that we are grappling as a nation. But Prof, the approach I really wish to give to all Kenyans, if we start the blame game, we lose the battle. If we go by the responsibility that, can I play my role? Of course, there are institutions to provide oversight, I mean, which is expected of them. But I think each one of us should approach this thing so that you don't feel like you are being put on the defense, on the defensive in order to fight back, but you are actually being called upon to play your rightful role. And I think that way we'll get more people participating in this business.
Thank you very much. Let's now hear the masses. You are the Kenyans, you've heard the speaker, the Reverend.
My name is Ibrahim Omondi from the National Anti-Corruption. It's good to have you, Mr. Speaker. I have two quick questions for you. One is the MCAs and the governors. There are situations where the MCAs have threatened not to pass certain bills until the governor does certain things. That's like holding him at ransom, you know, blackmail. And you've been in Parliament for many years. There were times when parliamentarians did not only increase their salary, but also threatened not to do certain things until their situations were watched. I'd like to know if that has changed with the Senate or even the current Parliament. Two is His Excellency the President and his deputy are on record to have declared they want their salary deducted. As the Speaker of the Senate, can't you follow the same steps? Fuata hiyo nyayo, pia yako ikatwe kidogo.
We hear you, but Honorable Speaker, before you answer, let's take one from Mark Korir.
Mr. Speaker, my name is Mark Korir from Association of Citizens Against Corruption. I have two questions. One is that when you are preparing your, let's say, the appropriation bill, you realize that the budgets you give to counties, there is no percentage that goes to fighting corruption. Why I'm saying this is that if you look at that budget, the money that you are giving to counties, the Constitution allows people participation in budget processes and what have you. If you don't give a budget that goes to people participation, especially into enabling the counties to counter corruption, how will they fight it? Secondly, you realize that the Senate today, as we speak, most senators are defending the national government more than the county government. So what are you doing about it? Because today, most senators somehow look idle because we have around 6 bills. I want you to I want to ask you this question. We have what we call the integrated systems at the county level. The integrated systems are to allow counties uniformly have systems that enable them manage their fiscal programs. Now, you realize, I want to give an example. If you go to Kisii County, When you park in Kisii County, it is automated. You only give you the number plate of your car and maybe your phone number. And in the next few minutes, you can park anywhere in Kisii. But across the other counties, it is still manual, where you can always negotiate with a park attendant. What has happened? What are these processes? Because we have the Fiscal Management Act, we have all these around 6-7 acts. What is the role? Because I want you to tell us as Kenyans, what are these acts that you have put in place to enable Kenyans to detect corruption and enable counties seamlessly operate without having loopholes?
And we are aware that you are the speaker and that there is a sense in which you don't participate, but you are part of the process.
Thank you for coming to my defense. Let me start with the Reverend. Salary cut. You did not hear me talk about a salary cut, because I'm not looking for other ways of making money apart from my salary. And I think it's, well, let me leave it there. On the word of MCS and governors and the parliamentarians, kind of, maybe I'm twisting the government. In a way, in a political process, there is usually a bit of toing and froing and there on particular issues. But we still need to conduct sufficient data really to know. You know, I am very uncomfortable when people just make opinions and it goes viral that this is done. You know, how many counties are we really saying that actually happened? I sit with governors. We organize meetings between the senators and the governors so that we'll try to get some of these issues coming out. And I think, yes, there are instances where that happened. But the political process is such that even the governor should be able to fight back in the sense of using the same assembly. Same to the Senate or the National Assembly when you have, senators of a particular political persuasion. Fortunately for us as the Senate, we have tried to operate really across the political divide because our agenda is very clear. We must support devolution. And so that has helped us, rise above the political divide. And so those are small issues that I think can be handled in the normal way. They are not yet out of hand as far as I'm concerned now. And for governors to use that as an excuse not to make MCS work. MCS must work, and those accusations will always come. And it may not be the entire assembly. It could be one or two individuals who are seeking rent out of certain situations. Now, you cannot really go ahead and make it a corporate identity. And two, for the governors, you have this kind of appellate process where the county assembly does whatever. It comes to the Senate. Now, when it comes to the Senate, we interrogate those allegations. So we find that they are not substantiated. We have the governor will continue with his work. But if they are substantiated, because we'll go by the law, we'll go by the evidence, we'll go by the reports already that the county assembly committees did, then you will go home. So that must be made abundantly clear. Makori on Korir. Makorir.
Yes, Makorir.
Makorir. Percentage of fighting corruption, I think that's a good suggestion. And this is why Constitution allows public participation in parliamentary processes. So I think that is something we can look into and see how we can, because you must make this thing active and alive. You must provide the means for that to happen. So I think that's a good suggestion. In terms of senators defending national government, I want to say I cannot speak for that one, but I will speak. In the sense that senators belong to political parties. So if you are a senator belonging to the Code Coalition, you'll definitely defend the Code Coalition out there in the public. If you are a senator defending, originating from Jubilee, when you go out there, like I saw a commentary today about one of my good senators, that they let the real one stand out, which was a good commentary. But the commentator missed the point that when I sit on a platform, I sit in that platform in a particular capacity. So if you are a government allied MP or senator, you will be pro-government. If we are in the minority, which we will popularly call opposition, you will definitely take the opposition views to the public, because out there is a contest between the different views. But one thing I can confirm, and I think most of you follow Senate proceedings, you will appreciate that we have really worked across the political divide, or even the regions, and we try to build a consensus. And I think so far, so good. But even if we were not, that is just the nature of the job you gave us. You gave us that job to go and argue. And I think the only place where you allow debate and arguments, well, there are many places, but at least the official one is on the floor of the House. That is the best place because it has rules, you can raise issues. We actually we elected people there to go and do that. To me, if they don't do so, they would have failed in their job. So I don't know where your issue of idle senators is coming from. I think you are just part of the group that is working against our interests.
Wachache wasiotosheka.
But I want to be faithful to what I had already said, that it's not my business to apportion blame. I want us to appreciate each other. That is the only way we can take this country forward. On the euphemism, I agree with you. That is a system that the government put in place at the national level, and they also agreed with the Council of Governors to harmonize it because of cash flow requirements. And I agree with you, part of the reason why we have the Council of Governors is that they can learn from what you are doing in your county, then another county can borrow. But we cannot force the counties, because a bit of devolution is that you will do things in your own way. We will at some point come and say, these are the best practices. Like when they went to Mombasa to have the 1 year of devolution, they were comparing notes on what did you do in your county, what have we done in our county. Then you can pick the best practices and now be able to replicate all over the country. And I think that to me is something good.
Yeah. Mr. Speaker, there's been a lot of benchmarking. And in the area of corruption, I would want to know, and I believe viewers and listeners would want to know, there are countries that are identified as doing very well in the fight against corruption. Rwanda in the region is doing very well. Botswana, which has a budget surplus last year, Mauritius. In the process of benchmarking, do you ask them, what are the things that you do to reduce corruption? And how do you then bring them back home and try to implement them for the benefit of the country?
Of course we do. You want to learn from which country has excelled, and there is the Barbara Index or Corruption Index, which is always published. We don't occupy we lead from behind. But my experience with this thing is a culture of the people, is the way we look at issues. You cannot just import. It's not a technology. You are just going to borrow and come and, or like we used to say, some people just copy what the rest of the people did. Here, you actually need to inculcate certain values and ideas in our youth, so that as they grow, they'll come to know this is the right thing, this is. My experience also that sometimes, even the issue of ethnicity, if you look at it, when we all went to school, we are all happy people. It did not matter where you came from. In fact, it was so good you visited each other. But the moment now you assume public office, then all of a sudden, your ethnicity becomes very acute. You are acutely aware that I belong to this, I have to protect some community interest. I think that's the challenge we have when we assume public offices.
And that is a thing that I think is important before we take a break. The question of ethnicity, and you'll also use the occasion to give your final words, that if you want to arrest somebody, for example, in your case, your people of Turkana, if you were to arrest you today, they would say you are their thief and we cannot arrest their thief. How do we deal with that in the context of the fight against corruption?
Yeah, it's on record for Kenyans. The thief is the one who does not come from the place.
Yes.
If you stole and you stole for us, that is not stealing, and even become celebrated. You'll be called for church fundraisings. You are up there. The next one, they will tempt you now to stand running for public office because you can take care of certain needs. And I think this is, in terms of a conclusion, one is, I think this national debate must continue. You know, the arguments that we have been told that, you know, why are we talking or not? Imagine if we are not even talking at all.
And we must stop it there. Why are we continuing with this talk? Because talking is part of the process. As we keep on saying, corruption is a sin, and we must talk about and against it. And we will be back next week to talk about and against corruption, moving the masses, the National Anti-Corruption Campaign Steering Committee, whose members are present in this assembly. And you viewers and listeners, the fight is for all of us. Have a good evening. We hope you have moved a few hearts and changed a few minds. God bless you.
Elimu na